Hello there, my sleepy fellows, and welcome to a story that promises to carry you gently into the heart of a magical world. Tonight, we will step into the quiet wonders of Middle-earth, into the comforting embrace of the Shire, where tales of hidden marvels await. Tonight's tale is about uncovering the hidden wonders of the Shire, an enchanting and often overlooked land. It is a story whispered among hobbits during twilight, of paths seldom tread and treasures hidden just beneath the surface of familiarity. This evening, we'll follow a gentle journey of discovery, filled with wonder and mystery, perfect for unwinding and easing into a peaceful slumber. As you step into this serene world, imagine the subtle crunch of gravel beneath your feet, the occasional chirp of crickets, and the far-off croak of frogs from the pond near Bywater. The Shire's air is cool and inviting, carrying the unmistakable sense of home. From the distance, the faint sound of a fiddle drifts through the air, hinting at a hobbit gathering far away, filling the night with warmth and cheer. So, settle in comfortably. Perhaps wrap yourself in a soft blanket, let your mind relax, and let the soothing magic of this tale guide you into tranquility. And if you enjoy stories like this, consider exploring others in our collection. Please subscribe to Out Channel and do let us know in comments section that from where you are listening and what time it is for you. Now, take a deep breath, let your worries fade, and let us step together into the Shire, where wonder awaits just beyond the quiet hills. The Shire is quiet tonight, bathed in the soft silver light of the moon. The rolling hills, dotted with cozy hobbit holes, seem to hum with a contented stillness. The gentle glow of lanterns, nestled in windows framed with vibrant green ivy, casts warm golden light onto the winding paths below. A soft breeze rustles the leaves of ancient oaks, carrying with it the faint aroma of fresh earth and blooming wildflowers. As the Shire sleeps under its starry blanket, a single hobbit hole remains lit, its round window glowing softly like a welcoming beacon. This is the home of Marlowe Took, a hobbit with a curious spirit and a kind heart. Marlowe is known around the Shire for his love of stories and his knack for finding the extraordinary in the everyday. His dark curls frame a face filled with wonder, and his bright green eyes often gleam with a mixture of mischief and curiosity. Marlowe spends most of his evenings seated by the crackling hearth, sipping a cup of spiced tea while poring over old maps and forgotten tales. His cozy study is filled with shelves brimming with leather-bound books, jars of peculiar herbs, and odd trinkets collected during his rare ventures beyond the Shire. To Marlowe, the world outside the Green Hills is a place of endless intrigue, even though he cherishes the simple joys of home. Tonight, Marlowe's cousin, Poppy, joins him by the fire. Poppy is a warm and spirited hobbit, often grounding Marlowe's wild ideas with her practical wisdom. With her chestnut hair tied neatly and a basket of freshly baked seed cakes on her lap, she listens intently as Marlowe recounts a curious tale he overheard at the Green Dragon Inn. "I tell you, Poppy," Marlowe begins, his voice low and filled with wonder, "there's more to the Shire than meets the eye. Old paths hidden by time, secrets tucked away in the woods. Why, even old Gaffer Gamgee spoke of lights in the forest that dance without wind. Poppy raises a skeptical eyebrow, but smiles softly. And what do you plan to do about these so-called secrets? I suppose you'll wander off into the woods and stumble upon something magical? Marlowe chuckles, leaning back in his chair. Perhaps I will. The Shire holds mysteries we've long forgotten, and who better to uncover them than us? Though playful, Marlowe's words spark something in Poppy's heart, a tiny flicker of excitement mixed with the familiar comfort of exploring with her cousin. She sets the basket of cakes on the table and says, "If you're determined, Marlowe, you'll need someone sensible to keep you from getting lost." Marlowe's face lights up with a grin. "Then it's settled. We'll start at dawn." The soft light of the fire flickers across the room, casting shadows on the walls as the two cousins begin to plan their quiet adventure. The night stretches long, but neither feels the pull of sleep just yet. Instead, the air fills with soft laughter, the rustling of parchment, and the hum of curiosity. As the fire crackles low, their excitement begins to slow, and a serene calm settles over the room. Their journey may be uncertain, but for now, they are comforted by the warmth of each other's company and the promise of the unknown that awaits them in the morning. The first light of dawn crept softly over the Shire, painting the rolling hills in hues of gold and green. Marlowe and Poppy stood at the edge of the woods, their breath visible in the cool morning air. The canopy above seemed to hum with life as sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting dappled patterns on the ground. This was no ordinary forest. It was one the hobbits of the Shire rarely ventured into. Whispers of its hidden wonders and odd occurrences had kept most from exploring its depths. Marlowe clutched a small satchel filled with essentials, a flask of water, a map of the Shire, and a compass gifted to him by an old dwarven friend. Poppy carried a wicker basket lined with a checkered cloth, packed with seed cakes, apples, and a small jar of honey. Hobbits, after all, must never journey unprepared. As they crossed the threshold into the woods, an otherworldly stillness enveloped them. The soft crunch of their footsteps on the mossy path seemed to echo, as if the forest were listening. "It feels different here," Poppy whispered, her voice barely more than a breath. Marlowe nodded, his eyes scanning the shadows for signs of the rumored mysteries. After walking for some time, they reached a clearing where the sunlight seemed to pool like liquid gold. At its center stood an ancient oak tree, its gnarled roots twisting into the earth like an elaborate sculpture. The tree was enormous, its trunk wide enough to hide a small hobbit hole, and its branches stretched high into the heavens. What caught their attention, however, was the faint shimmer of light emanating from the bark. Marlowe stepped closer, his curiosity piqued. "Have you ever seen anything like this, Poppy?" he asked, running his fingers along the rough surface. The light flickered beneath his touch, as though the tree itself were alive with a quiet magic. "No," Poppy replied, her voice trembling slightly. "But Marlowe, what if this isn't meant for us to find?" Before he could answer, a soft melody began to drift through the clearing. It wasn't the cheerful tune of a bird, nor the rustling of leaves in the wind. This sound was ethereal, as though a harp were being played far away. The melody beckoned them forward, pulling at something deep within their hearts. Marlowe turned to Poppy, his eyes alight with wonder. "We must follow it," he said, his voice filled with determination. Despite her hesitation, Poppy nodded, clutching the basket tightly as they ventured further into the forest. The path wound deeper, the trees growing taller and the light dimmer. The melody grew clearer, its haunting beauty filling the air. It led them to a small stream, its crystal clear water glinting like silver under the sparse sunlight. Marlowe knelt by the stream and cupped his hands to drink, but as soon as his fingers touched the water, a ripple spread outward, revealing a series of tiny glowing orbs. The orbs hovered just above the surface, their light soft and golden. They began to move, swirling in a gentle dance that mirrored the rhythm of the melody. Poppy gasped, stepping back slightly. "Are they alive?" she asked, her voice filled with awe. "I don't know," Marlowe replied, standing, "but they're leading us somewhere." The orbs floated upstream, weaving between rocks and low-hanging branches. Without hesitation, Marlowe and Poppy followed, their apprehension slowly giving way to a sense of childlike wonder. The stream widened into a small pool, its surface perfectly still except for the glowing orbs that now hovered above it. On the far side of the pool stood a stone archway, half hidden by vines and moss. Ancient runes, faintly glowing with the same golden light as the orbs, were carved into the weathered stone. Marlowe's heart quickened. "This must be it," he said softly, "the hidden wonders of the Shire." "But what is it?" Poppy asked, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and excitement. Marlowe stepped closer to the archway, examining the runes. Though he couldn't read them, they felt familiar, as if they were speaking to him in a language just beyond his understanding. He reached out to touch the stone, but as his fingers brushed the surface, the melody swelled and the orbs began to spin faster. The light grew brighter, filling the clearing with a warm glow. Marlowe and Poppy shielded their eyes, their breath almost caught in their throats. When the light dimmed, the archway stood open, revealing a path that led into the earth. The air that wafted from the opening was cool and smelled faintly of wildflowers and something ancient, something magical. Poppy hesitated, clutching Marlowe's arm. "Do you think we should go in?" Marlowe turned to her, his expression calm but resolute. "We came this far, Poppy. Whatever lies ahead, we're meant to find it." Hand in hand, they stepped through the archway. The passage was narrow at first, the walls lined with roots that glowed faintly like the orbs. The melody had softened, now a gentle hum that seemed to come from the walls themselves. As they descended, the air grew warmer, and the faint sound of trickling water echoed around them. The passage opened into a cavern filled with bioluminescent plants that cast a soft, calming light. In the center of the cavern stood a pedestal carved from the same stone as the archway. Upon it rested an object wrapped in cloth, radiating a faint golden glow. Marlowe approached the pedestal, his footsteps silent on the mossy ground. He hesitated for a moment before unwrapping the cloth, revealing a small, intricately carved box. The runes on its surface matched those on the archway, their light pulsing gently like a heartbeat. "What do you suppose it is?" Poppy asked, her voice barely more than a whisper. Marlowe shook his head. "I don't know, but it feels important." As he held the box, a sense of calm washed over him, as though the forest itself were thanking him for finding it. He turned to Poppy, a soft smile on his face. "This is only the beginning." The two stood in the cavern, the glowing plants casting their serene light around them. The melody had faded, replaced by the gentle sound of the stream flowing through the cavern. Though they didn't yet understand the significance of their discovery, Marlowe and Poppy knew they had uncovered something truly extraordinary. The forest, once shrouded in mystery, now felt like an old friend. The journey ahead was uncertain, but for the first time, they felt as though the Shire itself was guiding them, whispering secrets of a world they had only just begun to explore. The forest was alive in a way that was both familiar and entirely new to Marlowe and Poppy. The melody that had guided them earlier had faded into a faint hum that seemed to emanate from the trees themselves, as if the very woods were breathing alongside them. The air was cool and crisp, carrying with it the faint scent of blooming wildflowers and damp earth. Every step forward seemed to reveal something new, vines curling into intricate patterns, mushrooms glowing faintly in the shadows, and beams of light breaking through the canopy in ways that seemed almost intentional, as though the forest were curating their journey. Marlowe glanced over at Poppy, who was clutching her basket tightly. Her eyes darted around, taking in the wonders of the whispering woods. "It's like the forest knows we're here," she said, her voice a mixture of awe and uncertainty. "It feels alive," Marlowe replied, his own voice hushed, as though speaking too loudly might disturb the delicate balance of their surroundings. The path before them was narrow, bordered by a small stream that sparkled as though stars had fallen into its waters. As they followed its gentle curve, they came upon a small wooden bridge. It was ancient, with moss creeping along its rails and planks worn smooth by time. Crossing it felt like stepping into a story, one that had been waiting for them to continue its telling. Beyond the bridge, the trees began to grow denser, their trunks thicker and their roots weaving across the ground like the veins of some great, slumbering being. The air grew cooler, and the hum they had heard earlier began to shift, forming into faint whispers. At first, the voices were indistinct, like the rustling of leaves, but as they pressed on, words began to emerge. "Seek the light." Poppy froze, her grip on Marlowe's arm tightening. "Did you hear that?" she whispered, her wide eyes scanning the trees. Marlowe nodded, his heart pounding. "It's as if the forest is speaking to us." The whispers continued, soft and melodic, blending with the rustle of leaves and the bubbling of the stream. They seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, guiding them deeper into the woods. Despite the strangeness of it all, neither Marlowe nor Poppy felt fear. Instead, they were filled with a quiet sense of purpose, as though the forest itself were reassuring them. Their path eventually led to a small clearing bathed in dappled sunlight. In its center stood a stone fountain weathered with age but still flowing with crystal clear water. The fountain's base was adorned with carvings of animals and plants, so intricate that they seemed almost alive. At its top was a stone orb glowing faintly with a golden light. Marlowe approached cautiously, drawn to the orb's gentle glow. "It's beautiful," he murmured, reaching out to touch it. The moment his fingers brushed its surface, the whispers grew louder, their tone shifting to one of gentle urgency. "Protect the light, for the darkness grows." Poppy stepped closer, her eyes wide. "What does it mean? What light?" Marlowe shook his head, his mind racing. "I don't know, but I think this fountain is part of it." The orb pulsed softly beneath his hand, sending a wave of warmth through him. For a brief moment, he saw a vision, a great tree standing alone in a golden field, its branches reaching toward the heavens. Around it swirled a darkness, vast and consuming, but the tree's light held it at bay. When the vision faded, Marlowe staggered back, his breath coming in short gasps. Poppy was at his side in an instant. "What happened? What did you see?" Marlowe steadied himself, his gaze fixed on the glowing orb. "There's a light, something pure and ancient. It's being protected, but it's also in danger." The forest seemed to respond to his words, the whispers becoming a low hum once more. The light of the orb dimmed slightly, as though acknowledging his understanding. Marlowe and Poppy exchanged a glance, their resolve strengthening. Whatever was happening in the whispering woods, they were now a part of it. They continued their journey, leaving the clearing behind. The forest grew darker, the canopy thickening until only faint shafts of light pierced through. The path became more winding, the roots and stones beneath their feet demanding careful attention. Despite the growing challenges, Marlowe and Poppy pressed on, guided by the hum that had become a steady companion. As they rounded a bend, they came upon another clearing, this one vastly different from the first. It was larger, its edges lined with towering trees, whose branches formed a natural archway overhead. At its center stood a circle of stones, each one etched with runes that glowed faintly in the dim light. In the middle of the circle was a pedestal, empty save for a shallow indentation shaped like the orb they had seen at the fountain. Marlowe stepped into the circle, the air growing warmer as he approached the pedestal. "This must be where the orb belongs," he said, his voice barely more than a whisper. "But why was it at the fountain?" Poppy asked, her brow furrowing. Before Marlowe could answer, the ground beneath them trembled. The runes on the stones flared to life, casting the clearing in a soft, golden glow. The hum of the forest grew louder, rising in pitch until it became a harmonious melody. From the shadows at the edge of the clearing emerged a figure cloaked in leaves and vines. Its form was humanoid, but its face was obscured, and its movements were slow and deliberate. Marlowe and Poppy froze, unsure whether to be frightened or awed. The figure raised an arm, pointing to the empty pedestal. Its voice, when it spoke, was like the rustling of leaves in the wind. "The light must return. Only then can the balance be restored." Marlowe nodded, understanding what needed to be done. "We'll bring it back," he said, his voice steady despite the enormity of the task. The figure bowed slightly before fading back into the shadows, leaving Marlowe and Poppy alone in the glowing circle. As the light from the stones began to fade, the whispers of the forest returned, guiding them back toward the fountain. Though the journey ahead was uncertain, Marlowe and Poppy felt a newfound sense of purpose. The forest had chosen them to protect its hidden wonders, and they were determined to see the task through. The whispering woods had grown darker and quieter, as though the forest itself was holding its breath. The whispers that had guided Marlowe and Poppy earlier were now faint, almost inaudible, leaving them to rely on their instincts and the faint glow from Marlowe's lantern. The path ahead was winding and uneven, roots twisting across the ground like forgotten veins of an ancient being. The trees stood taller and closer together, their gnarled branches forming an intricate canopy that barely allowed the faintest slivers of light to break through. Poppy clutched her basket tightly, her eyes darting around the shadowy surroundings. "Do you think we're close to whatever the forest wants us to find?" she whispered, her voice almost swallowed by the dense air. Marlowe nodded, though his confidence wavered. "I think so. It's like everything's leading us to something important." As they pressed on, the air around them grew cooler, carrying a faint metallic tang that sent shivers down their spines. The path opened into a clearing unlike any they had encountered before. It was circular, surrounded by towering trees that seemed to lean inward, as though they were guarding the space. At the center of the clearing was a large stone pedestal, its surface etched with runes that glowed faintly in the dim light. Resting atop the pedestal was an orb, much like the one they had encountered at the fountain earlier, but this one glowed with a deep, sapphire blue light. The orb pulsed softly, its glow illuminating the intricate carvings on the pedestal and casting long, dancing shadows across the ground. Poppy took a hesitant step forward, her voice barely more than a whisper. "It's beautiful, but it feels heavy." Marlowe placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Let's be careful," he said, his gaze fixed on the orb. "There's something different about this one." As they approached the pedestal, the whispers returned, louder now and more distinct. The voices seemed to come from the trees themselves, their words weaving together in a hauntingly beautiful melody. "Beware, the shadows stir." Marlowe and Poppy exchanged uneasy glances. "What do you think it means?" Poppy asked, her voice trembling slightly. "I don't know," Marlowe admitted, his hand hovering over the orb. "But I think we're meant to take this." The moment his fingers brushed the orb's surface, a wave of energy surged through him. Images flashed before his eyes, visions of the forest bathed in light and shadow, of ancient beings guarding secrets long forgotten, and of a darkness spreading like ink across a once vibrant land. He saw the great tree from his earlier vision, its branches entwined with golden light, and he understood that the orb was connected to it in some profound way. When the visions faded, Marlowe staggered back, his breath coming in shallow gasps. Poppy was at his side in an instant, her eyes wide with concern. "Marlowe, are you all right? What did you see?" Marlowe steadied himself, his gaze fixed on the glowing orb. "The forest. It's fighting against something, a darkness. This orb is part of the light that keeps it at bay, Before Poppy could respond, the ground beneath their feet trembled. The runes on the pedestal flared to life, casting the clearing in a brilliant, ethereal glow. The whispers grew louder, their tone shifting to one of urgency. Protect the light, for the darkness awakens. From the shadows at the edge of the clearing came a low, guttural growl. Marlowe and Poppy turned to see shapes emerging from the darkness, figures twisted and malformed, their eyes glowing with a malevolent red light. They moved with an unnatural, jerky gait, their presence filling the clearing with a palpable sense of dread. Poppy's grip on Marlowe's arm tightened. "What are those things?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the growing hum of the orb. Marlowe didn't have an answer. "I don't know, but we need to leave. Now." The creatures began to close in, their growls rising to a chorus of snarls and hisses. Marlowe clutched the orb tightly, its warmth spreading through his fingers like a comforting light in the darkness. Without thinking, he raised the orb high above his head, its sapphire glow intensifying until it bathed the entire clearing in its light. The creatures recoiled, their snarls turning to anguished cries as the light burned away the shadows clinging to their forms. One by one, they retreated into the darkness, their twisted shapes disappearing into the forest. When the last of the creatures was gone, the clearing fell silent once more. Marlowe lowered the orb, its light dimming to a soft, steady glow. He turned to Poppy, who was staring at him with a mixture of awe and relief. "You did it," she said, her voice trembling. "You scared them away." Marlowe shook his head. "It wasn't me. It was the orb." The whispers returned, softer now, and filled with gratitude. "The light protects. The light endures." Marlowe and Poppy exchanged a glance, their resolve strengthening. The forest had chosen them for a reason, and they couldn't turn back now. Clutching the orb tightly, Marlowe led Poppy out of the clearing and back onto the path. The forest seemed to shift around them, the trees parting to reveal a new direction. As they walked, the whispers faded into a gentle hum, guiding them deeper into the heart of the woods. Marlowe couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was far from over. The orb was a key to something greater, and the shadows they had encountered were only the beginning. The whispering woods seemed to hum with anticipation as Marlowe and Poppy ventured deeper into its enigmatic embrace. The trees stood taller and closer together, their trunks covered in silvery moss that shimmered faintly in the dim light. The orb in Marlowe's hand pulsed gently, its sapphire glow casting intricate patterns on the forest floor. It was as if the forest itself was alive, guiding them toward an unseen destiny. The whispers that had accompanied them earlier had softened to a melodic hum, like the distant echo of an ancient song. Poppy glanced around, her gaze darting between the trees. "Do you think the forest is aware of us?" she asked, her voice barely louder than a whisper. Marlowe nodded. "It feels like it. Every step we take feels significant, like it's part of a plan." Their path led them to a narrow stream that sparkled in the faint light of the orb. The water babbled softly, its surface reflecting the trees above, like a living mirror. Kneeling beside the stream was a figure clad in flowing silver robes. Their hair shimmered like moonlight, and their sharp, elegant features were unmistakably elven. Marlowe and Poppy froze, their breaths coetal in their throats. The figure turned to them, their piercing eyes softening as they smiled. "Greetings, travelers," the elf said, their voice smooth and melodic. "I am Arendor, a guardian of these woods." Marlowe managed a nod, his voice faltering as he spoke. "We didn't mean to intrude. The forest brought us here." Arendor's gaze fell on the glowing orb in Marlowe's hand. "Ah, the light of Verendil," they murmured, stepping closer. "It has chosen you. That is no small honor." Poppy tilted her head, curiosity sparking in her eyes. "What is it? Why is it so important?" Arendor's expression grew solemn. "The light of Verendil is a fragment of the great tree Verendil, a beacon of hope that once illuminated these woods. It was shattered during the first age of shadows, and its pieces were hidden to protect them from the darkness. The orb you carry is one such piece, a guardian of the balance between light and shadow." Marlowe glanced down at the orb, its glow warm and reassuring. "But why us? We're just villagers. What can we do?" Arendor smiled gently. "The forest chooses not based on strength or skill, but on heart. You carry within you the courage to stand against the darkness, even if you do not yet see it." With a graceful motion, Arendor beckoned them to follow. They led Marlowe and Poppy along the stream, their movements almost gliding. The elf's presence seemed to calm the forest, the shadows receding slightly as they walked. "There is something you must see," Arendor said, their voice tinged with urgency. "Something that will prepare you for what lies ahead." The group arrived at a clearing where ancient ruins lay scattered among the trees. Tall pillars, cracked and worn by time, rose from the ground, their surfaces covered in intricate carvings. At the center stood a massive stone archway, its surface glowing faintly with runes that pulsed in rhythm with the orb's light. "This is the Gate of Memories," Arendor explained. "It is a relic of the forest's past, a place where the spirits of the woods can share their wisdom." Marlowe and Poppy exchanged uncertain glances, but Arendor's calm demeanor gave them the courage to step closer. As Marlowe raised the orb toward the archway, the runes flared to life, casting the clearing in a brilliant glow. The air around them shimmered, and a soft hum filled the space. The light coalesced into ghostly figures, their forms ethereal and fluid. They appeared to be elves, their expressions serene as they moved in a graceful dance. The visions shifted, showing scenes of the great tree Verendil, its golden branches stretching toward the heavens, bathing the forest in warm light. But the visions darkened. Shadows crept across the land, consuming the light and twisting the trees into grotesque shapes. The spirits' expressions turned sorrowful as they depicted a fierce battle, elves and other creatures of the forest standing against a tide of shadowy figures. The tree was struck by a wave of darkness, its branches shattering into countless pieces that scattered across the woods. Marlowe and Poppy watched in stunned silence as the visions faded, leaving the clearing bathed in the soft glow of the runes. Arendor's voice broke the silence. "The shadows you saw are returning. The orb you carry is a key to restoring the balance, to reigniting the light of Verendil. Poppy clutched her basket tightly, her expression resolute. What do we need to do? Arendor placed a hand on her shoulder, their touch gentle. Follow the path the forest reveals. The orb will guide you, but you must trust in each other and in the light you carry within. As they prepared to leave the clearing, Arendor gifted Marlowe and Poppy a small, intricately carved pendant. This will help protect you from the shadows, they explained. It is imbued with the light of the forest's guardians. The journey resumed, the forest seeming less foreboding with Arendor's pendant in their possession. The orb's glow grew brighter, and the whispers returned, their tone more harmonious. Marlowe and Poppy found themselves walking with renewed determination, their steps lighter as they followed the path. They came upon a grove where the trees formed a natural dome, their branches interwoven like the ribs of a great cathedral. At the center of the grove was a pool of crystal clear water, its surface shimmering with iridescent colors. The whispers grew louder, urging Marlowe to kneel by the pool. He placed the orb on the water's surface, and it floated, its light spreading across the pool like ripples. The whispers coalesced into words, a single phrase repeated over and over. The light endures, the light prevails. Marlowe and Poppy exchanged a look, their bond strengthened by the journey. The forest had revealed its history, its pain, and its hope. They knew their path was far from over, but they carried with them the wisdom of the woods and the light of Verendil. With the orb glowing brighter than ever, they continued their journey, the shadows retreating before them. The forest seemed to breathe with them, its heartbeat steady and strong. Together, they moved toward the unknown, their hearts filled with quiet determination. As Marlowe and Poppy ventured onward, they carried not only the orb, but the weight of the forest's hope. In the depths of the whispering woods, their journey had become more than an exploration. It was a mission to preserve the light and the life of a realm they had come to love. The whispering woods grew darker as Marlowe and Poppy pressed forward, the orb's light shining brighter to combat the encroaching shadows. The air was heavy with a palpable sense of anticipation, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. The whispers they had heard earlier now coalesced into a steady chant, their tone both urgent and encouraging. The path beneath their feet seemed to shift, guiding them deeper into the heart of the woods. The pair came upon a massive clearing surrounded by towering trees whose branches twisted together, forming an unbroken canopy above. At the center of the clearing stood a monumental tree stump, its surface carved with ancient runes that glowed faintly in the dim light. The orb in Marlowe's hand pulsed in rhythm with the runes, its light intensifying with every step they took toward the stump. Marlowe hesitated, the weight of the moment settling heavily on his shoulders. "This must be it," he murmured, his voice barely audible over the rhythmic hum emanating from the runes. Poppy placed a reassuring hand on his arm. "We've come this far together. Whatever happens, we'll face it as one." The moment their feet touched the base of the stump, the forest seemed to come alive. The runes flared brilliantly, illuminating the clearing in a dazzling array of colors. The orb floated out of Marlowe's hands, ascending slowly until it hovered above the stump. The light from the orb spilled over the runes, and the ground trembled as a low, resonant hum filled the air. From the shadows at the edge of the clearing, a figure emerged, a tall, ominous silhouette cloaked in darkness. Its form shifted constantly, as though it were made of smoke and shadow. The whispers of the forest turned to sharp warnings, and the once calming chant now echoed with urgency. Poppy clutched the pendant given to them by Arendor, her fingers trembling. Is this the darkness Arendor spoke of? Marlowe nodded, his gaze fixed on the figure. It must be. It's come to stop us. The shadowy figure surged forward, its movements fluid yet menacing. The clearing grew colder, the very air crackling with an unnatural chill. But as it approached, the orb's light intensified, pushing the darkness back with every pulse. The shadow hesitated, its form flickering as if the light was unraveling it. Summoning their courage, Marlowe and Poppy stood their ground. Poppy stepped closer to the orb, her voice firm despite the tremor in her hands. "We carry the light of Verendil," she said, her words steady, "and we won't let you extinguish it." The shadow paused, as if taken aback by her resolve, but it quickly regained its form, surging forward once more. Marlowe stepped beside Poppy, raising the pendant toward the shadow. The artifact began to glow, its light mingling with that of the orb. Together, their radiance formed a barrier that pushed the shadow back toward the edge of the clearing. The shadow let out a guttural sound, a mix of a growl and a wail, before splitting into countless smaller wisps that darted into the surrounding trees. The air grew still, the oppressive cold lifting as warmth returned to the clearing. The orb descended slowly, its light dimming to a soft glow as it settled back into Marlowe's hands. Poppy exhaled shakily, her grip on the pendant loosening. "Is it over?" she asked, her voice tinged with hope. Marlowe studied the orb, its gentle light reassuring. "I think we've driven it back for now, but this feels more like a beginning than an end." As if in response to his words, the runes on the tree stump flared once more, projecting a vivid image above the clearing. The vision showed the great tree, Verendil as it once stood, its golden branches reaching toward the heavens, radiating light that filled the forest with life. The image shifted to show the tree shattering, its fragments scattering across the land. Arendor's voice echoed softly through the clearing, though the elf was nowhere to be seen. "The forest has chosen you as its guardians. The light of Verendil lives within you now, and with it, the hope of restoring balance to these woods." Marlowe and Poppy watched as the vision faded, leaving the clearing bathed in the soft glow of the orb. They exchanged a look, their bond strengthened by the journey they had shared. "We'll do everything we can," Marlowe said, his voice steady. "The light deserves to shine again." The pair began their journey back through the forest, the path illuminated by the orb's gentle glow. The woods seemed less ominous now, the whispers transforming into a soothing hum that accompanied their steps. The shadows that had once loomed so heavily now felt distant, as if the light had driven them to the farthest corners of the forest. As they approached the edge of the woods, the sun was beginning to rise, its golden rays filtering through the trees and casting a warm glow over the path. The forest seemed to bid them farewell, its whispers growing softer until they were nothing more than a faint memory. Marlowe turned to Poppy, a smile breaking through his usually serious demeanor. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" Poppy nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "And there's still so much to do, but whatever comes next, we'll face it together." The two stepped out of the woods, the light of Verendil glowing softly in Marlowe's hands. Behind them, the forest seemed to breathe with renewed life, its trees standing taller and its leaves shimmering with a faint golden hue. Though their journey had been long and fraught with challenges, they knew it was only the beginning of a greater adventure, one that would take them far beyond the edges of the Whispering Woods. The warm golden glow of the morning sun spilled over the edge of the horizon, casting long, soft shadows across the Shire's rolling hills. Marlowe and Poppy stood at the edge of the Whispering Woods, the forest behind them alive, with a renewed sense of energy. The orb of Verendil rested gently in Marlowe's hands, its light dim but steadfast, as if content with the journey it had just completed. The pair paused, taking in the peaceful beauty of the world they had worked so hard to protect. The forest's whispers, once filled with urgency and mystery, had transformed into a gentle hum that seemed to carry words of gratitude and hope. The air felt lighter, the oppressive darkness that had once loomed over the woods, now nothing more than a memory. Marlowe exhaled deeply, a mixture of relief and quiet pride settling over him. "Do you feel it, Poppy? It's as if the woods are alive again." Poppy smiled, her eyes reflecting the soft light of the orb. "I do. It's like they're thanking us in their own way. The shadows may not be gone for good, but for now, the light has found its place again." They began their walk back toward the heart of the Shire, the familiar sights of their homeland bringing a sense of comfort. The orb's glow seemed to blend with the sunlight, creating a warmth that followed them with every step. Villagers waved as they passed, their faces bright with curiosity and admiration. Word of their journey had spread quickly, and the Shire's folk were eager to hear of their adventure. As they neared the village square, a group of hobbits gathered around them, their expressions a mix of wonder and excitement. Marlowe and Poppy exchanged a glance, realizing that their journey had not just been for the forest, but for their community as well. "It wasn't easy," Marlowe began, addressing the group. His voice was steady but soft, the weight of the journey evident in his tone. "The Whispering Woods tested us in ways we never imagined, but with courage, and with the light of Verendil guiding us, we were able to bring a part of its magic back to life." Poppy chimed in, her voice warm and reassuring. "The forest isn't just a place of shadows. It holds stories, memories, and a beauty that deserves to be protected. Together, we've ensured that its light will continue to shine, not just for us, but for everyone who comes after." The crowd nodded in appreciation, their murmurs of approval blending with the gentle rustling of leaves in the distance. One by one, the villagers returned to their daily tasks, leaving Marlowe and Poppy to reflect on their journey. As the day turned to evening, the pair found themselves back at the hill overlooking the Shire. It was the same spot where they had first set out, filled with uncertainty and determination. Now, they sat side by side, the orb resting between them as the sun dipped below the horizon. Marlowe broke the silence, his voice filled with quiet gratitude. It feels like a lifetime ago, doesn't it, when we first stepped into those woods? Poppy nodded, her gaze fixed on the fading light. It does, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. The forest taught us so much about courage, about trust, and about the power of light, even in the darkest places. The stars began to emerge, their soft glow mirrored in the orb's gentle light. The Shire below them was quiet, its lanterns flickering like fireflies against the darkness. The peace of the moment enveloped them, a fitting end to a journey that had been anything but ordinary. As the night deepened, Marlowe placed the orb carefully into a wooden chest he had brought with him, its light spilling out one last time before the lid closed. "We'll keep it safe," he said softly, more to himself than to Poppy. "The light of Verendil deserves to be protected." "And it will be," Poppy replied, her voice filled with quiet conviction. "But I have a feeling this isn't the end of our adventures. The forest may call on us again someday." Marlowe smiled, the weight of the journey lifting from his shoulders. "If it does, we'll be ready." They sat in silence for a while longer, the gentle sounds of the Shire lulling them into a state of calm. The stars above seemed to shimmer brighter, as if the forest itself was watching over them, its light a quiet promise that the balance they had fought for would endure. As the night deepened, Marlowe and Poppy rose to their feet, their steps slow and unhurried. They returned to their cozy hobbit holes, the glow of their lanterns welcoming them home. The forest's whispers lingered in their hearts, a reminder of the light they had found and the shadows they had overcome. And so, dear listeners, the tale of Marlowe and Poppy comes to a peaceful end for now. As you drift into your own restful dreams, may you carry with you the light of Verendil and the courage to face the shadows. The Shire sleeps peacefully tonight, its hills cradling secrets that wait patiently for the next chapter to unfold. Rest well, and let the magic of Middle-earth guide you to a place of warmth and wonder.